Hi guys, so today we are going to be making brownies. So we made cookies earlier this week, and now today we're going to be talking about melting and all the things that go along with it. So the very first thing that I need to do, because let's do a little reminder, is put on my apron. If you don't have one at home, it's obviously okay. Most thing it does is protect your clothes and also helps protect some of the germs from getting on your stuff. Second thing I need to do is I need to put my hair up so that it is out of the way. Even when you are cooking at home, you want to make sure that your hair is up and out of the way so that you're not getting any of your hair in the food. And then the last thing I'm going to do is wash my hands. Obvious reason, get all the germs and uckiness off. Anyone have any idea why I would wash my hands after I put my apron on and after I put my hair up? If you guessed because you don't want to spread more germs, you are correct. So I'm all cleaned up and I'm ready to go. And the very first thing I'm going to do is mise en place. Remember, we talked about that word. So for this recipe, I am going to need 8 tablespoons, aka a half cup, aka 1 stick of butter. So I have nothing I need to do to it. I got my 1 stick. The next thing I need to do is I need to get a cup plus 1/8 of sugar. So if you guys remember, when it comes to sugar, we want to make sure that we level off. So I'm going to tilt you guys down now. So here we go. All right. So I have my sugar. Remember, I'm going to spoon in. Mine's really kind of a smaller opening here, so that's also why I have to spoon in. You can scoop the sugar because it won't pack down like flour, but spoon in my 1 cup. Don't forget, I also need to level off. So I'm going to spoon that in. Gonna pause here, grab a knife. And then I'm going to make sure it's evenly spread. Go ahead and level off. Put that in my bowl. And now it calls for 1/8 cup of sugar plus 1 cup. So an 1/8 is a pretty small measurement, and normally it doesn't come in our metal measuring cups. It normally is equal to 2 tablespoons. So instead of trying to find 1/8 of a cup, I'm just going to measure out 2 tablespoons. So again, I'm going to dip in there, level off. Goes in my bowl. Again, I'm going to level off. Goes in my bowl. I am now done with my sugar. From there, I am going to need 1 tablespoon of olive oil or any other oil that you might have at home. So I'm going to use the same tablespoon. I'm just going to kind of try and get all the stuff out of there real quick. I'm going to do 1 tablespoon, try and make it nice and even. There is my 1 tablespoon of oil. All right. The next part is pretty easy for me to measure out because I'm going to mise en place these all in 1 bowl. So it tells me that I need a half cup of flour. So remember, we are not scooping into our flour. We are spooning in because we do not want to pack our flour down, right? So I'm going to spoon in, tap it around, level off. So here is my flour. Super quick and easy. This is a really good fudgy kind of brownie, but it also is probably one of the more simple brownie recipes. There's no melting chocolate in this. Your cocoa powder is going to be your chocolate. So again, I'm going to measure the cocoa powder just like I did the flour. So I'm going to spoon in there, make sure it gets even across. My cocoa powder is not big enough to scrape in this, so I'm going to just scrape over my sink to get it nice and level. Pop that in there as well. So in here, I now have my flour and my cocoa powder. I also need salt. So again, I'm going to do a 4th teaspoon. Remember, teaspoon is smaller than tablespoon. I'm going to do my 4th teaspoon. And I'm just going to give that a nice little mix so it's nicely incorporated. So again, I have my cocoa powder, my flour, and my salt in here. Okay. I'm going to put that off to the side. Now it calls for 2 eggs. I don't really need to prep them. It doesn't ask for them to be beaten beforehand, so those are there. And then the last thing I need to measure out are 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So I have my 1. I have my 2. There we go. And remember, when you measure that liquid, you want to make sure that it's as close to the line as you can. Now, the only thing I'm going to save to the end are the chocolate chips because Miss C does not like to measure them like you should. I believe that you can have as many chocolate chips as you want to have. So I have all of my mise en place ready. Now, the very next thing it asks me to do is it asks me to melt my butter. So there's a couple different ways that I can melt my butter. But before I do that, let's pause and talk about a few things that I should have done beforehand. So while I'm mixing my ingredients, I want to make sure that my oven is preheating. So this needs to be at 350. If you have never preheated your oven at home, you're going to hit bake, and then you're either going to have arrows or numbers to type in. You'll type in 350, you hit start. So I'm going to do that really quick. Now that my oven's preheating, let's talk about our pan. So you guys can use a 9x9, an 8x8, a 7x7 pan. Today, I believe I'm doing a 8x6 pan because my 9x9 is dirty. So here we go. We have our 9x9. There's a couple different ways you can grease your pan. The most easy would be your cooking spray. Pam, it can be the vegetable oil. I have olive oil, whatever one works best for you. Never spray over your floor. You're always going to spray over your sink so that, like, if you get any of the spray outside of it, someone doesn't slip and break a hip. So I spray all my corners on my side so that I don't get stuck to the bottom, and I put a layer on. You guys can hopefully kind of see that reflection. I did not coat this so that the oil is going side to side. If you do that, your brownies are going to taste like the oil, and that's not going to be what you want. You don't want that oil flavor. You want the brownie flavor. So we greased our pan. We're all set there. The next thing we're going to do is now we're going to melt our butter. Again, a couple different ways you can do this. First, you can melt it in the microwave. I normally do like 30-second intervals for butter and make sure that all the little pieces are broken up, or you can melt over the stove. I'm just going to pop in the microwave today, make it quick and simple. The same thing goes, you can melt chocolate in the microwave or you can melt over the stovetop, but both times, whenever you're melting anything, we need to be sure that we're not either A, burning it, or B, if we do need it to be hot, because this recipe calls for hot butter. When I microwave it, I need to be sure that, like, if it's popping, that I'm careful getting it out so I don't burn my hands, and that it's not exploding all over my microwave. So I'm going to pop it in for 30 seconds. I'm going to pause. Once that happens, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, make sure that I have good consistency. And if there's any sugar or any butter that needs to melt more, I'll pop back in. Half stick of butter normally takes about a minute in the microwave. When you're melting it over the stovetop, depending on what heat you use, it probably takes about 5-ish minutes to melt it on the stovetop. So not too big of a difference there. All right, butter needs some more time. I'm gonna let that go. While that's going, in my large bowl, I'm going to put, this is where my butter's going. I have my sugar, and I'm going to throw in my olive oil. And for this recipe, I am going to use this bad boy. So if you guys remember our rubber spatula, this is going to help me fold my ingredients. It's going to be nice to get all the edges so I get all the goodness from my brownies. All right, looks like mine still needs about probably 30 more seconds. So my stick is taking about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay. So this is starting to get all ready. And while I'm waiting, I'm actually going to crack my eggs into another bowl. So remember, when we crack our eggs, we always crack on a flat surface, never on the side, because we don't want to get any shell into our mixture. So I have my one. Tap, put your fingers in, pull, there's your egg. So now I have those prepped. And my butter is ready. So you guys can see I have this film on top. And if I mix it around, that butter is nice and melted. The sides are very hot, so you got to be careful. I'm going to pour this into my sugar mixture. Use my rubber scraper to make sure I get all of that butter out. All right, so here, I'm going to mix this all together. So because this butter is nice and hot, it is going to start to break down my sugar, so it's not as coarse. So here I just have this sugar butter mixture, right? Then I'm going to add in 1 egg at a time. So I'm going to mix this up in there. It is going to become very sticky and gooey here because I'm adding in a lot of liquid. And if you guys remember, eggs are my binder. So I'm making sure that all of my ingredients are going to stick together. Add in my other egg here. I kind of like to chop through the yolk before I start trying to mix it so that it takes me just a little less time so I'm not over mixing my product. All right. And I have this consistency now. And again, I'm going to add in a little bit more liquid with my vanilla. So right now I should have a very liquidy mixture because I have not added in any of the heavy dry ingredients yet. All right. So here is my mixture. It has a nice vanilla flavor or smell, and it has a very liquidy texture. And you can see, hopefully, that if I go up a little closer on the sides of the bowl here, you can see that the sugar granules have started to break down. Now, again, I don't want to dump this all in because it's going to just spatter all over the place. So I'm going to go a little bit at a time. I'm going to do about half the mixture at first. And in this recipe, folding is going to be our best friend. So remember, folding is when I come under the mixture and pull over. And you guys can hear that my oven is now preheated and ready to go in. So I'm going to keep folding over and over until it becomes combined. Now, this recipe, when you guys make it, you're going to see the cocoa powder does not want to mix in very easily. So it is going to take you some time before you start to get that nice brownie mixture. Make sure you're scraping the bottom of the bowl. Got my first mix in. Remember, this is cocoa powder, flour, and salt. So I'm just going to do 2 bigger mixes here. Again, folding up and over, folding our mixture together. I do a couple spins just to try and get those sides done, but for the most part, folding is what's going to help and get us in. Once I have all my flour, I'm going to give it a nice swirl. And there we go. It should be a fairly smooth mixture, but it's okay if you have a couple chunks in there. They will kind of break down in the oven. So I have this nice chocolatey mixture. Now again, Miss C doesn't like to put a limit on how many chocolate chips she can have in her mixture. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball it. It's probably about a half a cup that I use. I'm going to mix those in there. And now that I have all of that done, my brownie mixture is complete. So pretty easy peasy. Now let's put it into our pan that is already greased. I'm ready to go. Now, the biggest tip that I have for you guys, if you want to get as much brownie as you possibly can, is to not be gentle with your bowl and your rubber scraper. It is meant to scrape the bowl. So tip over and really use those edges to get the sides so that you can get as much brownie mixture as possible. You can see that this brownie mixture isn't spreading out like a box does because it is very fudgy. So if you look at my bowl here, I've basically gotten almost all of that out. So I'm trying to make the optimal use. I'm going to spread my brownies all over. And here's where you can get a little creative if you would like. So I just top with some more chocolate chips. If you guys wanted to be a little creative, you could crinkle up like Oreo. You could top it with some caramel drizzle. You could do sprinkles, powdered sugar, whatever it may be that you like. Go ahead and top them that way. But here we go. I'm nice in my pan. You can see it sliding around because of that grease, but topped with chocolate chips. I'm now going to pop these in for 20 to 25 minutes. My tip, always remember that you can bake them for a shorter amount of time, but once you overbake them, there's no going back. Start with 20 minutes. Once 20 minutes is up, take a toothpick, stick it in the center. If you don't have a toothpick, a fork, whatever it may be, check the center. If it comes out clean, they're ready to come out. If not, pop them back in for 5 minutes, check them again. So pop them in for 20 to 25 minutes. And other than that, that's all you have to do. I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.